It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. YK in the building.
Good morning, yo. Good morning, everyone.
Purple. How you doing?
I'm fine. My cousin, I told you, I met her husband to be on Sunday. She brought him to the shrine. Very handsome man. You know,
your cousin is getting married?
I told you she's 50-something.
Yes, you mentioned it.
That cousin. Oh, wow. Handsome man, right?
Handsome.
All those widowers are always very handsome.
You know, very...
Jesus Christ.
I don't know that he's a widower or he's a divorce. I'm not even sure.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
To make that kind of assumption, it was an assumption on my part. But I'm sure that...
I'm happy for...
But they both have kids, you know. Yeah. She has 3. I think he has 2.
That's a community.
Yeah,
it's a companionship relationship, and you know what you're getting.
Find a name for it. Why can you call it partnership? But you gotta find a nice, funky name for it. You know.
I was happy. They both look very
mature.
You know.
And love at that age, you mature. You know what you want.
You know exactly. You know what you want. It's
Oh, how beautiful.
So, yeah.
Our regards to her.
Yeah, I will. I told her I would mention Millicent. I said I would mention. She probably doesn't watch the show, but maybe someone will tell her.
Yeah.
How you doing, Tokwe?
I'm good. So today is the 3rd Lagos Real Estate Marketplace Conference and Exhibition. And Stoke sent me a reminder. What I'd registered. My phone reminded me just as the show was about to start that I must be at the Lagos Real Estate Marketplace Conference and Exhibition by La Sierra. And I love the idea of community, because when you're in the same industry and you discuss, you find information that you probably wouldn't have studied or stumbled your way through learning into, and I'm grateful for the platform. And
I really wanted to be there. I mean, I saw her on Sunday. She sent me a reminder also, but unfortunately, my doctor's appointment is today.
I didn't take care of yourself.
I just agree, Muriel.
Health
first. But you never know. So let me just go. How you doing, Mariam?
Fine, thank you. I'm doing good. See, I want to spend the remaining days of this month in gratitude. I just realized that I had been complaining a lot and just being quite hard on myself. And so I decided that I'll make it deliberate, you know, to constantly just live in the moment, be in the present time, and just be grateful for every step that I am taking right now. I get so caught up in the things I should have done, things I didn't do, things that, you know, would have been done different from what I'm doing right now. But I just realized that the more I am grateful for how things are, you know, the better life seems, and just the more I'm aware of my blessings. Yes, so fantastic. That's what I want to do going on forward.
Nice, good.
Aside from doctor's appointment, what's going on?
Well, I'm in the Tinubu September campaign media strategy team. So there's a Lagos rally tomorrow. So we've been planning and working back to back. So I'll be there tomorrow. So I can't host the show tomorrow, but I have to be there to do the work I've been drafted to do. But it's really exciting. I love the meetings. When you're working around political circles, they are thinking, their objectives, what they're trying to do. It's just an interesting circle, and I'm learning quite a lot from it. You know, so it's stretching. What? Stretching me. It is stretching me. You know, because I've been up since 3 a.m. on this matter. You know, but hey, I love the work. I enjoy it. I love pressure, and I'm enjoying the moment. So it's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
All right, we'll start with The Nation. Tinubu points way forward on power, security, and others. Wike attacks Dogara for backing Atiku. 130 billion naira Sukuk loan to fix federal roads. Atiku, I will sell off refineries to raise $10 billion for SMEs. Oil theft, we didn't indict NNPCL, says Navy. And why I deserve re-election by Governor Sanwo-Olu. Okay, which story? Let's start with the major headline.
So the presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, yesterday spoke on how it will tackle insecurity and reposition the economy if elected next year. This was at Chatham House in the UK. He went with a team of some current governors, APC stalwarts and a think tank institution of members of APC Presidential Council, and they addressed several issues, many of which was, I'll just highlight it. We'll tackle insecurity from the roots. He mentioned how the problem has persisted over a long period of time, even under the current administration, and if elected, how he's going to go about it. He also spoke about power outage will end and broke down the strategy on how power outage will be dealt with. He spoke about the economic changes we need will be driven by the private sector, and his belief that private sector is the fulcrum for the economic progress, and it's evident and documented, the blueprint on how they are going to achieve that. There was no assurance on diaspora voting currently, but he highlighted a bright future at the polls, and El Rufai spoke extensively about security, restoring security as well. We can't cover everything in newspaper review, so I'd advise everybody to watch the video and read.
But what happened concerning the diaspora voting, they did say that the INEC chairman will be invited in a couple of weeks in January to the Chatham Household and able to answer the question.
But there are no assurances.
All right. Any other story? Let's.
Yes, I've got
Go
this.
ahead.
The Wike. Okay. What are you taking?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No, okay. The Wike was attacking Dogara for joining the PDP, and apparently him and Wike had a meeting some weeks before, and they had agreed on something. According to Wike, Dogara, he was just now watching. You know, he said people left PDP before and went to APC. Now they have now left APC and come back to PDP. That they are miscreants. That's
very strong.
I'm quoting him.
I'm quoting him. He said that's how he was watching the TV one day. He just saw Dogara joining APC. And now that him and Dogara are supposed to have a meeting, and now he's seeing Dogara has joined Atiku. That Shebi Dogara said that he is backing a southern president. That why is he now going for a northern president? That they don't have integrity. That he's tired. So Dogara.
What party is Governor Wike again?
PDP. They came to his party.
I thought you'd be happy about it. Okay, no problem. Confusion in the land.
He now says
In the party.
So Dogara now answers him in a tweet. He said, "To my brother, Governor Nyesom Wike, if there is anything you are suffering from, I never thought amnesia would be one of them."
It's a lie.
Why would you think no one except you is entitled to a certain set of principles? She cannot compromise. It's such a pity you cannot remember what our discussion and agreements were all about. Why should only your own position be respected and followed? I will never betray a friend and a brother, and that is why I won't respond to your tirade on live TV.
Interesting.
The
intrigue.
Talking
Politics.
about PDP, the presidential flag bearer of the party, who is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. I mean, we hear Wike's name so many times, we're not sure. But to remind us, he was in Lagos, he was in Lagos yesterday for his presidential rally. And one of the things that he said was that he's going to raise $10 billion towards SMEs, the young people in businesses in Nigeria. He says he's been asked how he's going to raise that, and he says if he were to privatize the 3 refineries, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and the third one that's in Warri, that he will be able to raise that amount of money. He also said that if we elect him, there's going to be restructuring of the country. We will give states and local governments more powers and resources. And although there's other political news that say that many of the PDP stalwarts weren't at the venue, but yeah, that's one of the things that he said.
Okay, let's talk about the Sukuk. The 130 billion naira Sukuk loan to fix federal roads. So the DMO was saying yesterday, as many of you know, the Sukuk has been a non-interest loan that has been purchased. It's a 10-year facility, a non-interest and an alternative instrument designed in the form of a lease with rental rate. And they've been able to raise about 130 billion. I think there was about over 100 billion Sukuk insurance, and government raised about 130 billion, which will be used exclusively for construction and infrastructure. So, I mean, it's a good thing. I'm happy that we have more money, because I know that the Minister of Works and Housing was saying that they're waiting for this money. They've been waiting for this money for a while to be able to construct quite a few roads. So I'm happy that so far this money is going to be available for them to do the work that needs to be done. Let's move on quickly now to the Punch. Naira depreciation adds 9 trillion naira to foreign debt burden. Abuja-Kaduna train records low passenger turnout. Nigerians with NIN rise to 92 million. Oil theft, Navy denies blaming NNPCL. Nigeria projects 1.8 million barrels production by May 2023. FG not ready to fund varsity, says ASU. And Tinubu takes campaign to UK. Atiku train storms Lagos. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Okay, ASU is saying that it's aware of the federal government's move to gradually disengage itself from funding public universities. So they had a meeting yesterday, a 2-day National Executive Council meeting at University of Cross River. I want to read it exactly. It said, NEC observed with concern the systematic disengagement of government from funding of the public universities through the proposed introduction of education loan, which has proven to be a monumental failure in our nation and some other countries where it was introduced. They're saying that why they find it troubling is that the Nigerian majority is quite poor, and, you know, administration after administration has been like the reason why we have moved our country into poverty, and now they're expecting that this loan would work. And so they're asking Nigerians to speak up, you know, against this proposed move, and also remind government to urgently address the outstanding issue, especially concerning the 2022 Memorandum of Action between the federal government and ASU.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with our review. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. Let me take the story on NIN. So we have about 92.63 million Nigerians who have already collected their NIN. That's the national identification numbers so far. According to the statistics, about 19.93 took theirs this year. We have about 52.11 million male, 40.52 million female. Lagos and Kano leads the pack. I think Lagos actually has 10.33 million who have their NINs. The states who are still lagging behind are Cross River, Ekiti, Ebonyi, Bayelsa, and Taraba states. Now, if you don't know, these NIN numbers will be, have your records, individual records of your demographics, your data, your fingerprints, head to shoulder, facial picture, all the biometric data. So we don't have to continue to replicate these things across also. We were talking during the break about having to put a picture to show that you're now married, those kind of things. Once you have your NIN, all the data about the fact that you can now you're Mrs. somebody, that will all
just
reflect,
update it at the NIN.
update at NIN, and you're fine to go, and you're good to go. So it's good to know that the 92 million Nigerians now have it, but there's still over 100 million Nigerians left, at least, to get it, and it's important that they could continue to
Maybe they don't have phone.
So let me take the story of oil theft. So the Navy denies accusing the NNPCL of being the one that should be responsible for the oil thefts. And the Navy said they got media reports that during the interactive session that they had with the Senate Committee on Economic and Financial Crimes, during the relevant agency implementing the, they found out that they felt that the NNPC, the Navy statement indicted NNPC. So NNPC was out to say, no, we are not the one responsible. We told the Navy that 100,000 barrels were being stolen per day, and it is stolen offshore, under the sea, where the ships are supposed to get the crude oil for. They said processed crude oil, Nigeria has not been able to process crude oil for exports since around February, March, and the inability is based on stolen oil. This conversation is that Navy is saying that we did not blame NNPC. Seemingly like we're both responsible. At the end of the conversation, which I want to highlight, is that they both said that we will work together to secure our oil industry for the overall good of Nigeria and indeed the meaning well-meaning Nigerians. I don't like the fact that we're trading blames, but I think it's important that we are able to label who is responsible and who failed, who dropped the ball, so that if there are no consequences, this thing will still happen again.
Right.
Okay, sorry, I was going to check the Abuja. They said that the Abuja Kaduna train started yesterday amidst low turnout, but with heavy security. Security, police, they were on the train, they were at the stations, the Abuja station and the Kaduna station. They took their NIN, they took their
As they said they would.
pictures. They had to, they had to register.
Ahead before they got, right? Pre-register before you enter the train.
Yeah, and then they interviewed a couple of the passengers, and Mrs. Adeshina Uthman said it was an awesome experience. She said she enjoyed it, fully air-conditioned, and that she had to scan her barcode on the ticket machine before being allowed to board. So apparently they're taking
better steps. It's the sustainability of it that's the Nigerians are worried about.
I think a lot of people, they will join later.
Eventually,
but people are...
We'll take over.
I won't blame them for being scared.
In fact, I think those people that took this first trip are
very
very bold.
Very brave.
But it's also good to see that government said one thing and we see
If you know how terrorists act, they will not go
on
on
the first day.
They're waiting for you to...
Probably the first day that they stay first.
Is that day that I would have gone?
Let me take Governor Wike, my favorite governor after Governor Sanwo-Olu. So, he was speaking right before he said what he said concerning the Dugara. He was saying that he has called members of the Presidential Campaign Council of the party to stop harassing or attacking the G5 governors if you don't want to incur their wrath. He said this, let me say his specific. He said, now I want to tell the presidential candidate of PDP, we only need peace. We want peace. All of us together for the party, we also want to win the election. We want peace in this party. We don't like wahala. He says that, and I'm thinking, he's not the one that is stirring the drama in the party. But he says that it's ludicrous for persons who, that's a different issue, was insisting that if they continue to attack the leaders of the party, they will strike back. If anybody, again, dares in the PDP Presidential Council to insult any of the G5 governors, that they would definitely fight back. Enough is enough. And I'm helping Governor Ike to reiterate it here on papers. Okay, any other story? Let's move on now to Vanguard. INEC yet to assure us on Beaver, says Tinubu. Don't despair, Osinbajo can urge Nigerians. You must remain neutral, Buhari warns army. Kidnappers of Ondo Monarch reduced ransom of 10 million naira. No intentions to disrupt 2023 polls. You lack moral basis to criticize Buhari. Subsidy, we won't accept any fuel price hike. And I won't abandon your Utelos project, says Adeleke. Okay, which story are we starting with?
The president, ahead of 2023 elections, has warned the Nigerian armed forces to remain apolitical and neutral. He said that they should continue to operate within the framework of the Constitution to ensure a successful conduct of the election, but they shouldn't get involved in anything regarding the election. Then he also promised that he was going to improve the well-being of the army. He said he will continue to improve their human rights obligations, and during operations in line with global best practice, he pledged to modernize the Nigerian armed forces, and they would fast-track activation of the Nigerian Army Aviation. Human rights, on the area of human rights, he mentioned that they would be, security agencies would need to, there would be more supervision. And then he said, we would continue to galvanize and encourage the public to support your efforts. I urge you to continue to improve your human rights obligation during the operations in line with global best practices. But what I'm happy about is we must keep reminding our security operatives that they are a neutral body, not in support of any party, to ensure that the entire Nigeria, stands and the election is safe.
Okay, I was going to... Vanguard in the story. I was going to take the story, the major headline, which I thought was a bit misleading because it was about the interview at Chatham House where Tinubu was saying that INEC yet to assure on beavers. And if you read that by its own, you don't really get what he was saying, because I did watch the interview, and he was saying, according to the report which I'm reading right now, he says that what Asiwaju was saying, that we are still building confidence in our democratic voting system. And INEC is even yet to assure us that the electronic transmission is seamless enough before we start introducing this international voting. Because I was asking a question based on diaspora voting. Why can't we encourage diaspora voting? So we can't do that now because we are still building a democratic process. Our system is not even strong enough yet to even assure of the smoothness of the process before we start introducing something complicated like diaspora voting. That's what we're saying concerning the major headline before we misconstrue that.
Okay.
Any other story in Vanguard?
Subsidy, NLC?
Subsidy, go ahead.
Yeah, so NLC is saying that that they would reject any form of fuel price increase in the name of removal of subsidy. As far as they are concerned, they don't think it's right that for them, what is it that we even call subsidy? It says subsidy is inefficiency or our inability to refine products. The president of NLC is saying that, in many other countries, about 50 countries, energy is subsidized. And why would we say that we're unable to subsidize petrol for Nigerians? And he's saying that Nigerians need to step up. He says in socialist countries, they do everything to make life easier for its people. After all, why they're unable to do, revamp our refineries, that is really the problem. That's really the subsidy. If you're unable to revamp refineries, you're inefficient, and you're unable to just provide the products for Nigerians, why would you now say that you're going to take out increase fuel prices? So I guess this conversation is ongoing because on the one hand, we talk about scarcity of products. We hear the different prices in dollars. We hear the constant change in the exchange rate, and how this has affected prices back and forth. I think this conversation has to be laid to rest soon enough. And he's saying that whether now or in 2023, they're not going to accept it. So any incoming government, this is going to be a major conversation we have to have going forward.
The abductors, they kidnapped the Oba in Ondo State last week, Thursday. They dragged him from his house at 10 p.m. and they have now agreed to collect 10 million. So the family are begging the government and everybody to please come to their aid to rescue their monarch. And they've said that if they don't pay the 10 million, they're going to kill him. So the other Obas, Oba Olanikpekun, called on all the strangers on the farms, produce this man or else we are going to ban all of you from farming here.
Okay, our final paper is the Nigerian Tribune. Let's find a story we've not taken. Alleged $1.3 million fraud. EFCC declares Kano APC senatorial candidate wanted. Our massacre speaker prosecutes arrested suspects, Catholic bishop tells CDS. FG Mall's review of university autonomy laws. Atiku Wu's Lagosian says restructuring will engender just society, united country. Northeast remains one of the world's largest humanitarian crises, says United Nations. Adeleke visits Osun Assembly, promises cordial relations to achieve progress. So I have the Adeleke story. So Governor Ademola Adeleke of Osun State was made a statement by the spokesperson to the Speaker, Kunle Alabi, in Osun yesterday, House of Assembly. And he was telling them he was seeking their cooperation in his administration, saying that he promised not that they would not cheat anyone. He says it will be an inclusive government where everybody will be happy and peace will reign supremely in the state. And he does not plan to stop any of former Governor Adeleke's project, former Governor Oyetola's projects. That government is supposed to be a continuum, and he will continue to do the good works he has started. I mean, so I guess he's trying to come down to appeal to the lawmaker, because you can't do anything without the lawmakers on your side. So it's important that he's taking a wise decision to go to appeal to them, to lobby, to ensure that they support him as he moves forward. Okay.
I also like that he said he's going to continue. He said government is a continuum.
Yes.
So, I mean, that is the way it should be. Continue the projects of the former governor.
Okay, I think that's all we can take on Front Page Review today. When we come back, move on to our next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So today we're going to talk about a medical procedure that has been somewhat demonized in our culture in some areas. Many people, especially those who live in the cities and the urban areas, somewhat have accepted the procedure of the cesarean procedure as an option for birth. But in many other communities, areas, and religious beliefs, they still shy away from this procedure, thinking it's demonic, it's unethical, or it's even anti-spiritual, or what's the word? Is it anti, it's
not really godly.
It's not godly, thank you. And that's the conversation today, because this show is not for everybody. This particular show is for those who still have that thinking. And we're hoping that our conversation today will shed more light on these procedures and hear from others who have lost their loved ones as a result of some of these beliefs, cultural thoughts, and these limiting beliefs that stops us from having children. Aside from cesarean options, there's now the new one of surrogacy. Still people still shy away from surrogacy, saying that's really not my child. So it's a conversation we have to keep having to reorientate the minds of Nigerians on what these procedures are and understand those who have something against it. It's always good for us to understand their perspective and then see how we can reason together. You can share your thoughts with us this morning on 081-270-53687, 091-390-76948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweet. I would like to hear this morning from those who still have the belief that cesarean operations are ungodly, those who believe that surrogacy is not a godly procedure, it's not a godly process. We'd like to hear your thoughts and perspective on this so that we can reason together and have a more wholesome conversation on these things. We have stories of people losing their lives.
So as I said, I don't even think that we should add surrogacy to CS. This CS in its own, there are two different stories. Dr. Perkins on Twitter said that he's a doctor, that CS is a life-saving procedure, and is calling out pastors who are making women lose their children by telling them lies that God will ask you on your dying bed. He also said that doing CS doesn't make you less of a woman, having CS doesn't make you a weakling, having CS doesn't make you inferior. Stop demonizing CS, which is cesarean section, which is an operative way of helping to protect the life of the child as well as the mother when during childbirth and vaginal childbirth cannot take place. And I've heard a very, very sad story of someone who was in her 40s, who has waited for over 10 years to have a child, and then she got pregnant. And that God did a divine conception. We've waited for so many years. And at her delivery date, she couldn't give birth naturally, and they urged her to do CS. And the pastor said, if God got you pregnant, God is going to see you through. Don't lose faith. Hold on. Well, the sad truth is she lost her life as well as the baby also died. Now, that's an extreme case. And there are places, there are exceptions to that rule where some people escape and they hold on and they're able to push through. But data is that many children die because they've been left in labor for too long. And that's the reason there is a process called cesarean section to help ensure that while the labor is going on and the woman can't push through, we can use a surgery to help. And it is sad that some some sections of religion organization choose to create something called, a word called Hebrew women. And they've turned it into, if you birth like an Hebrew woman, you don't cry, you don't do anything, like you just pushed and boom, the baby came out. And only those that did go through giving birth through that process are children of God and they have a miracle.
Let me come to Miriam here because I want us to understand, where do we draw the line between faith and science? Because I have faith. I trust that God, just like the example you used, God helped me to this point to have this child, to even be pregnant after I waited. That same God should be able to help me push through. That's the belief many people go with. So when do we now draw the line between my faith, my strong faith, and science?
Who knows? I just know what I know. And the story is, I know of someone, and he used to be my driver a long time ago. And I remember one particular day, we just had him in the compound. He had fallen down. He was rolling all over the floor. And we ran out. What is happening? He said that his wife is in hospital. We knew that she was pregnant, but I think she was rushed to the hospital earlier than her due date, and he was at work. and the doctor is saying that she needs to get a CS. And we're like, okay, what's happening? He said he had to call his mom first to ask her permission. And the mom said, never, never, never. They don't do CS in their, in their family. I remember my husband saying, you are the man of the house. You will take charge. You want your wife to leave, right? And everything. Anyway, he left. Thankfully, by the time we came back, mother and child were good, but he was quite silent on what eventually happened, whether it was through natural birth or. And then this Hebrew woman phase, I remember when I was pregnant, I had my very first pregnancy, my friend had a paper, prayer, that she sent to me, and it was about the Hebrew woman prayer to help you through that time. And I remember my mom going through it, and she says, maybe to educate me, she says, you know that it's okay to have CS. She says even some people opt for it, even if it's not an emergency. It's just another option that you have. And I'm grateful because right now, I'm recognizing that poverty is not only poverty of money, material things. It's poverty of knowledge. Do you understand? There's poverty of exposure. There are no people around you that can give you the honest, factual truth about situations. And so people are caught up in this, constantly deciding, am I going against my faith? Am I going against my culture? Am I going against our family legacy and name over health? So I think the conversation has to be that your health is important, and that the God that has brought you this far, he's the one that also equipped the medical professionals and scientists with this knowledge that they have to help Christians, Muslims, people of belief in this situation. It is a thing to rejoice about. And so what I would say, maybe in churches and mosques, we should talk about people who have had to go through this way of giving birth and make it a testimony as well, and so that people who happen to accept it easier.
Let me, because one of the other factors, YK, is the fact that people share these testimonies and we all hear it. Oh, I was in labor, the doctor wanted to do CS, I prayed to God, I trusted God, and I pushed through and the baby came. And we did not have to do CS. So when you hear that kind of testimony, you hold on to it and say, if Sister Mary can push through, even though the doctor wanted to do CS, that's same God. So that's why I say, how do we, because we hear it all the time, and when you hold on to somebody's testimony, how do we therefore manage understanding what somebody's experience is and deciding objectively what your experience should be? What do you think, YK?
Well, I think that I would blame, I don't want to blame anybody, but I have to say it here that, you see, if you have not taken in, if you have not carried a child before, you do not have the right to advise a woman who is carrying a child how she should deliver.
That's one.
You're right. Absolutely.
Because you are not even
been pregnant.
You've never been pregnant. So what value are you to the person that you are advising? You are of no value.
Spiritual value.
You are not, because if the person dies, you will continue living your life, or if she loses the baby, like this particular case that Dr. Pekin is talking about, she is alive. But she's alive to the fact that she will never have a child again. And that the only child that she had died. Because some irresponsible person, because I don't want to blame, because there are some pastors who will actually not do that. Yes. They will tell you, no, follow the doctor, because I'm not a doctor now.
Yeah.
What gives me the right?
Yeah.
What God has sent you to do is to pray for a person, not to advise a person.
Medically advised, yeah.
You're not and you see, again, I will say here that a lot of doctors as well, they need to be examining these patients properly, because you will know when a woman is going to have complications at childbirth.
That's why antenatals are important, where your doctor is constantly reviewing the baby and letting you know this baby is getting big, or we're likely to open you up to bring this child out. And at that time, but sometimes they do.
Yeah,
so
I think
the conversation.
Yes.
My own personal experience was when I was up to 36 weeks or 38 weeks, they said, oh, the baby's head had engaged. So when the baby's head has engaged, so at that time, from that time, I was waiting for the baby to come out any moment, because that means the baby's head is. Then I carried 1 week above the time, and then I go into hospital. I'm in labor for like 12 hours. Then the doctor comes in and says, the baby has turned.
Breached.
It's breech. Now, a baby's head that has engaged,
Yes.
How
can
did
it
it?
how can it breach?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So, if I was a religious person, I say, no,
It's a spiritual matter. Let me pray.
I will start praying. I was even so weak at that point.
Right.
When they suggested CS, I said, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, and so that's how I had a cesarean. But I never envisaged a cesarean child birth because they didn't prepare me for that. So doctors too should start to
Prepare.
Prepare them.
But
Yeah,
this
so I said
conversation,
minds.
this conversation is about the fact that pastors make it look like any intervention is not God. And
Not all
science,
pastors.
some pastors, yeah, some pastors. And science is God-given ideas. Like the science of, if a pastor can use a phone and does not feel that this phone that can make you talk to somebody in America is demonic, then a pastor should allow women to go through CS, because just the same way a phone is not demonic, CS is not ungodly. Just the same way TV is not ungodly, your CS is not ungodly.
Yeah.
Science is a God-given creative solution to problems that happen to
We've
us.
seen doctrines change. Remember back when we were growing up,
When
we
they
don't
say
watch
TV is evil, and now people are
after years,
broadcasting on TV.
people now
the mic that they are using to
It's
talk.
technology.
It's technology.
Let me go on a break. When we come back, we continue with our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, as I said, today's show is not for every Nigerian because many people do have new perspectives to this conversation, but we're discussing this specifically for those who are still who still have the mentality that cesarean section is ungodly, and where they have spiritual leaders or even society influencing their decisions when it comes to childbirth. Now, Mary, let me let you add some more.
Yes, so let's talk about the concept of the Hebrew woman. We're talking about this during the break. And the concept of the Hebrew woman is that it's a woman who is able to give birth without showing any pain, without reflecting any of the pain that she's going through that would come naturally to a woman that's giving birth. And if we remember the story of the Hebrew woman during the time of the slavery of the Jews in Egypt at the time, she had to hide her childbirth because there was like a ban. You know, they knew that their children would be killed, and so they were trying to protect their children that were being born at the time or taken out, you know, to slavery, and they had to hide that they were having children. So we cannot use that now as something to show that, to depict strength. It was women that were forced, that were put under undue pressure and stress. But we are living in, we are living under the new covenant. You're also living in Nigeria where there are blessings and everything around you. You can walk into the hospital. There are doctors and nurses all around you, people waiting on hand to help you. The Egyptian women at that time could have their children, you know, while being pampered and cared for and then celebrated. The Hebrew woman, after having that child, she had to also deny that child the celebration that came with childbearing, you know. So for us, I don't think that Hebrew woman concept works for us today. If it's to say that, I know that over time also it's been changed to mean that you would not go through too much stress. But I think Nigerians are taking the fact that it means that you would not need any form of intervention, and that does not work. So let's just accept that God has brought us here. God has brought us into the land and time of abundance. He has given us options right now, and we should use it and praise him for doing it.
Let me take this call from Sheyi. Good morning, Sheyi. Are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please. You're live. You're listening to your TV. Go ahead, please.
Oh, good morning.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Murayo and the lady.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
Very well.
Morning.
I just want to contribute in my own way.
Please.
By the grace of God, I'm a pastor. In my church, Living Spring Chapel, we preach both ministration and medication to people. We let them know that God can heal you by miracle, and God can heal you through medical practitioners. He's still the same God. So this time around, people should come up and know that either they go through CS or by normal delivery, it's still the heart of God. That's why the Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So people should come up and reason, not condemning the cesarean section or saying if you are not delivering normal delivery, is not the heart of God. Both are the heart of God. We should have right sense of thinking. We should not allow any pastor to destroy our lives by our own personal ignorance. We should seek for knowledge.
Right.
We should seek for knowledge.
Thank you, Pastor. You see, I also want to put in, where does government come in here? Because you see, in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, you know, a fetus, a woman decides, okay, abortion rights, maybe you can time to take out your child for one reason or the other. But once is a full human being, that child has rights. A full birth, a full child 9 months, after 9 months, is a full human being that has rights. So sometimes your belief cannot supersede what the government is saying, that, listen, that child deserves to come out. And if the doctor is saying that the child's life is at risk, the government is defending the child to come out in a certain way. So, you know, in other countries where you see they defend the child, but here it's still left to you as a parent to decide, do I want CS? So sometimes you compel the parents to, you have to do CS for the sake of that child, because that child has to live. You know, so can government also review some of our laws to protect these unborn children from dying as a result of religious preferences or beliefs?
I don't think you can legislate that kind of thing. People would go behind the scene or say that they will hide in their houses because of their faith. I think that the best way is to just spread information. It is a knowledge thing, so as to change their ideology. And I think another subtle way of doing this is we should start sharing testimonies that I had this child through, you know, this was a CS baby. Or you'll be like, I did IVF 5 times, and the 6th IVF took, and then with a CS, we now have quadruplets, and that is a testimony. And people would clap and celebrate God, because the truth is many IVFs fail. So IVF working is a miracle. CS, people still die. So the fact that the CS worked for you is still a miracle. So we must celebrate, we must start celebrating all shades of how science intervention is still God blessing us.
I know you guys didn't want us to go into surrogacy, but maybe another day. Because it's still a testimony. If somebody helps me to carry a child, which I'm unable to, it's still a testimony.
It's full
adoption. Adoption is equally a testimony. So I think we should normalize these testimonies. And when you give testimony, don't give all this nice...
God did it.
God did it.
I know of a couple that adopted twins.
Nice.
You know? And the funny thing is, when the twins, they were a boy and a girl, when they started to grow up,
Say looking like them.
the boy looked like the dad, and the girl looked like the mother. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
I have a story like that. But let me take this off. Elijah Subera. Good morning, Elijah Subera. Are you there?
Moray, I'm there.
You're live.
I've been here for long.
Sorry about that, Elijah. I do apologize.
All right, okay. Good morning, Moray and ladies.
Yes.
Good morning.
Moray, you see, the point you are discussing today is very, very germane. Very, very, very important. And it goes beyond, discussing this on television. How many women of Nigeria is watching you now? You see, the topic is so important that I knew a lot of women have lost their lives, in the process of this issue. You understand? Yeah. So I am advocating that, an NGO or whoever that is in medical line should take it as a responsibility to convert, based on this purpose. Look, like Tokwe said, technology is knowledge from God. You understand? I'm a Muslim. You remember those days when our own fathers is going to Mecca. They go by Sahara Desert. Some of them die on the road. You understand? Because of the distance. But now technology has come. People go by plane. You understand? They go even and come back. You understand? That is the importance of technology. You understand? So be it. You understand? This issue of cesarean is a technology, achievement given by God to safeguard women. You understand? That is why I said it goes beyond advocating on this TV. I will appeal for the Minister of Health to start campaigning for women, because most of them have been polluted. Like you said, some of the pastors will commit that if you do this, do that. And look at the television we are watching now. You understand?
Oh, Alhaji, we lost that. So
Yes.
yeah, he's very correct. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so you know there's something that Waike said in the beginning when she says if you've never had a child, you have no right to sort of legislate or advise me on how I should have my child. But then we also know that the gatekeepers of some of these things are women themselves. So like I told you the story of my former staff. He had to call his mom to ask her permission. So this is not a woman that was having that child, but she's determining for a woman in labor how she should have her child. So we also need to talk to women and educate them, and then the places that they get their education from. So I feel that the government is doing its best, making sure we have hospitals where you go for your antenatal classes. There are people there, government workers that are there to educate us on what is healthy and what, you know, and what's available for Nigerians. But we're talking about, like, I like that angle where you said that maybe government should legislate it if it has to do with protecting the life of the woman or the child. I really do think that government should look into legislating it because our exposure to education is diverse. And we have a country, whether we like it or not, millions of uneducated people, millions of out-of-school people, millions of, you know, huge illiteracy. So a lot of things government would have to legislate until we sort of catch up. That is why when we talk about education, this is what we're talking about. If people are well educated, if they're well exposed, they will understand the things that are healthy and that's for their well-being.
Okay, so we have to wrap up. I was going to say I had a story because I have a friend actually who adopted a child many years ago. And the child is probably like 13 years and she looks exactly like my friend. Like you would never know. I can't even mention it because I don't know. I'm not sure how many people know. But they look exactly alike. I don't know if there's a medical reason to this, but eventually this children look like. So we should stop demonizing adoption.
Yeah.
I think when you stay together, you start to...
Is it the mannerisms that make it look
You
like?
get the mannerisms, then I think your faces start to... Like when you see a couple who have been together for 50 years,
Yes,
you see that they look alike. So I think there is some science to it that when you stay together, if it's your dog, you stay with.
You might look like that.
No, you tend to look like a dog eventually. Yeah, there's a man. They all, yeah, I've seen that. Why it's absolutely correct.
That's really out of our topic, but then...
We gotta wrap up with this. But I think, in a nutshell, just like Alhaji Subera said, we can't stop this conversation here. I know it sounds funny and ludicrous to some people because it's a no-brainer. But to many millions of Nigerians, till today, still believe that cesarean section is ungodly and should not be done. So we need to continually reorientate, especially those who are not as exposed as we are. So we're talking to those, your drivers, as you said, people who are around you, the community. There are people around that actually do believe that this is demonic. So please,
I had a cesarean, and I don't think I'm any worse for it.
No. In fact, you're quite hot for it.
Oh, that's true. You
I
had
had two
as well.
cesarean. My first child was natural. The second, I had the twins. I couldn't even twins. Better cut them open and just bring them out. You know? And the second, the third one, they said, listen, Auntie, you'll be cut open. You might as well just cut open again. Please go ahead.
I had
You had a cesarean?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So you're natural, it means?
That's the word. So I was careful not to use natural because we always say if you're normal birth, they will say it's natural birth.
It's natural now, it's not science.
It's natural.
Natural birth, not normal.
Yeah.
No, not normal. Natural versus science.
Okay.
Natural is...
Natural. Okay, so I had natural
CS
birth.
is...
Yeah.
And I was praying against CS. Let me just confess.
So maybe
I was one of those that I had my confession. I would not have CS. I would give birth like Hebrew women.
Had that. They told us.
They told me and they gave me prayer for that. I prayed it and I was testifying in church that it was natural.
And you didn't get that prayer book on Hebrew women. You're not in Nigeria. Well, I didn't get it. I do YK.
You're not in the church.
If you had gotten it,
I'll be shocked. So they are all evolving.
Yes.
They're all learning and we're knowing that some of these things. That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, move on to the next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we have one of the cabinet members of the Lagos State Governor, special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on innovation and technology, Mr. Tubosun Alake. He'll be speaking to us on how Lagosians can be part of and also be beneficiaries of the largest technology conference in Nigeria. Welcome, sir, to the show.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to
for
have
having me.
you.
Yep.
So we saw that you're planning an Art of Technology Lagos. It's supposed to be the largest tech conference happening in Nigeria. Tell us about this conference.
So the Art of Technology Lagos is an event in a series of events we've been having over the past 4 years, actually, or 3 years, actually. The first Art of Technology Lagos was sort of like a bridge between the government and the technology ecosystem.
Okay.
So in trying to design an innovation and technology master plan for Lagos, it was important that we converse and engage with the ecosystem to try and dimension a plan that is industry standard and that was relevant for the ecosystem to grow. So the Art of Technology is a series of engagement points. It's a platform of engagement between civic authorities and the private sector technology ecosystem, because it's only in that engagement that you can build really fit for purpose plans, right, for Lagos. And so that's really what Art of Technology is about.
Okay, so just paint a picture for me. What is it? Is it like a trade fair? Do you have people come and just lay out their wares and then government is there? What is it exactly?
So number one, it's a series of conversations, right? It's one of the only conferences, say a startup builder or an entrepreneur can sit next to a government official, right? And there are conversations, right? There are panel sessions, there are plenary sessions, and then there are usually exhibitions as well. Some startups come, they have some new technology to showcase, they have the opportunity to network with other startups and with potential customers, you know, and things like that. So think of it as an exchange point for the ecosystem, and that's really what it's about.
So I know about CES.
Yeah, correct.
And when you were talking, it was just sort of like seemed very similar to what they're trying to do with CES. But many people always feel they approach government-related platforms like this with talk shop. We're just trying to make noise, and nothing really would probably come out of it. How do you address people like that who are looking at another government event? I'm not interested. What exactly? Why should they come?
Right. So if you look at CES that you mentioned, it's a consumer electronics show, mostly consumers and commercial. For Art of Technology, it's slightly different, and you are kind of on the money when you say people say it's a talk shop. But let me walk you through some of the achievements and why this is very important. For the first AOT 1.0, it was the first time that an Office of Innovation and Technology was set up to really focus on innovation and the nascent startup ecosystem that was growing. So it was like, look, how could we turbocharge this ecosystem for growth? And so this exchange point was formulated to actually talk to people on the ground and not assume to make policies in the air and not be, you know, where things are really happening. So the first AOT was when we dimensioned, out of that first AOT came the first Lagos State Innovation and Technology Master Plan, right? That has 4 major pillars, right? In fact, over the past 2 years, we've increased it to 7 major pillars. So the pillars were data access, infrastructure, talent, funding, communication and advocacy, diversity and inclusion, and policy, right? So these were the pillars that we identified, that if we were able to really formulate certain policies and initiatives within these pillars, yes, there will be changes within the ecosystem, right? Yeah.
So I see that because I want us to bring the conversation home because it's important for me that the viewers understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So these pillars eventually should deliver a smarter Lagos.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually. Now, when Nigerians hear smarter Lagos, they're thinking, there's poverty in the land, there's no infrastructure. How do you start looking for a smarter Lagos amongst this poverty-stricken community where we see? How does that work? Because that's the fundamental questions Nigerians are asking. Is it too far-fetched, this smarter Lagos vision, or do you think we're putting the cart before the horse?
Absolutely not, because in trying to drive or reduce or alleviate poverty, you need to apply technology. I'll give you an example. Lagos State is a city that the population keeps increasing. There are estimates, whichever one you look at, whether about 5 to 8 people migrate into Lagos an hour. Now, for you to be able to cater to an ever-growing population with a static piece of land, you need to manage resources better. The only way you can manage resources is to apply technology frameworks. I'll give you an example. Identification, right? If you want to keep up with the growing pace of population, you've got to be able to identify everybody within your jurisdiction. That is going to take the application of databases, for instance. You need to build massive databases with certain feature sets that would enable you to be able to identify people. For instance, if we want to build health insurance is a tenet of poverty alleviation, because if people are able to get health insurance, then their health, wealth will be better. They are able to go to work, be productive. And for them to be able to get health insurance, you've got to be able to identify them as bona fide citizens of Lagos. Yes. That will require the implementation of a robust database, right? And that database has to be able to be tied to different services, whether it's health insurance, benefit plans.
Let me pause you for a second, because we have an NIN. And people are confused. That's a federal level. Correct. So I'm going to federal to register. Yeah. Lagos is also asking to register. Is there any way you can you and federal can merge to get the data from? Because they're saying that about 10.5 million Nigerians now have NIN confirmed from NIMC. So how are you merging that data? Are you still going to go through another round of data?
So NIN is saying they have about 80-something million Nigerians. Yeah, correct.
I'm talking 10 million. Only Lagos is about 10.5. I read it in the papers today. 10.5 Lagos. But go ahead.
Right. So Lagos, our population is actually around 20, between 20, 22 million, right? And we are talking to NIN actually. That's NIMC, the agency in charge of the NIN number. But for Lagos State's own development, we need to collect more unique data points, right? Because Lagos State is different from Zamfara, or it's different from Cross River. Right? So the kinds of things we need for our own development require the implementation of our own database. It's the same thing in the US. If you go to the US, you have a New York state ID or a New York driver's license. It's different from a Pennsylvania driver's license. They use those data points to plan their economy because of the way they are structured. And we are structured similarly. So it's important that Lagos State also collects its own data.
How do you want to convince people that all this data that you want to collect is not so that you will just come and hit us where it hurts?
With liabilities.
So taxes, with this, with that, you know, a lot of people, nobody's going to want to hear. And then the second question is, how long will all this take?
So we have started, actually. So today we have an agency called the Lagos State's Residence Registration Agency, right? Has already implemented a robust database, and collection has been ongoing. In fact, so far, we have approximately 6 million Lagosians within the database.
I'm not there.
Last round. I have my last round.
I'm there.
Right.
What's last round?
The Lagos Residence Registration Agency. That is the agency that is tasked with identifying Lagosians, right? It's important for state planning, for resource management. Right. For instance, if we want to build more hospitals, for instance, in whether it's at Limosho, how many people are there, right? What is the comorbidity makeup of that area? So that enables adequate resource deployment to those areas. So it's important that each state, right, whether in collaboration with NIMC or if they're able to implement their own robust databases, it's important that they do so.
If I have my tax card, do I need to go and do last right?
So all of this, because the tax card deals with just your taxes, your tax benefits, or your tax profile, right? There are other parts of the economy that you need to be involved in, right? That your tax number might not be able to accommodate. And that's why LASRA is important. But nevertheless, there are databases that will be tied together, right? So there is a consistency in your identification, and there is no duplication of records or things like that. So it's very important that we actually collect that data and are able to plan ahead for the next 30 years. If you notice, in Betty, we released the 30-year development plan, 2022 to 2052. If we want to say Lagos should become a human-centric city, you cannot achieve that without adequate data point collection. Very, very important.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks. We're still speaking to the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Innovation and Technology, Mr. Tumbo Salaki. You had a question, Mariam.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So before my question, I think for me the concern will be after going through the stress. Many Nigerians have gone through the stress of getting the NIN number. It wasn't just stopping to get it. We saw the long queues. We hope that it will not require such stress, to give data to the Lagos State government when they need it. So my question is, this is the AOT 4.0, right? So I would like to know what milestones you've achieved from the first one to now to show that you're making progress, and what we can look out to point and say, okay, it looks like they're making progress and they're headed where they want to.
Right. So the first AOT 1.0, like I had mentioned earlier, launched the Innovation and Technology Master Plan, under which the pillars I mentioned had specific initiatives to be able to drive digital inclusion, internet penetration, smart city implementation models across different sectors. So if we look at that trajectory from 2019, which was the first one till now, some of our achievements have been we've been able to deploy over 2,900 kilometers of fiber optic cable.
Those colored ones?
Yes, some of those multicolored ones that you see. Apart from connecting government buildings, public schools, we've connected about 100 public schools. We are connecting general hospitals.
So what does that mean? That means that the schools, the kids can use Wi-Fi.
Yes, so what that means is that there is an aid to the teaching element, right? And
hospital.
Yes, so distance learning becomes possible. Okay. So if you are not able to come to class, for instance, the school has enough robust capacity to be able to do distance learning, and also even supplementing the curriculum, data and information to aid teachers, right, to be able to teach better. That is also available because of this technology. For government institutions being connected to this fiber, e-government is now possible. Certain government institutions that didn't have internet connection before, once they are connected to a fiber optic network, then they can implement ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, that would enable them to offer online services to citizens. Part of why that has not been possible was the lack of infrastructure.
I can say something earlier. How long? So have they started? Because Nigerians want to know, have you started already or is coming to start?
In fact, we're almost finished.
Okay, so
we're almost finished with the first phase.
When you say we've almost finished, you mean that in a very short while, hospitals can have data. Can access schools can be connected to data. Schools, public schools can be connected to data to teaching. And also government agencies can be connected. They won't say there's no internet. They can know that, okay, housing, they want to go and do for information. They can get it from another ministry. Correct. That's what you're saying.
In fact, today, we've connected the campus in Alausa has a robust Wi-Fi connection, right, across many of the agency buildings. So some of them, a lot of our agencies within the Alausa campus actually have internet today. Of course, that also works when there's electricity. So power is another thing that needs to be available. So like I said, 2,900 kilometers of fiber optic cable have been laid. This was from our first AOT, we had 0. Okay. Right?
Was it only VI was laid?
No.
You didn't see them because people used to say at that time, it's those colors, multicolored.
Yes.
People were saying it was, what's that thing?
That thing that was supposed to take away.
No, it's supposed to be 5G, but people were saying it was one funny thing like this.
Rapture.
That was what brought COVID and all that. But these cables, I thought it was for 5G, so it's not for 5G.
No. So in the telecommunications sector, there are different technologies that enable you to be connected to the internet. The ones we are doing are physical cables that are laid, maybe those cables get pulled into your house, to your home, office, school, whatever. 5G is wireless technology, right? And so when you make a phone call, right, if you are on a 5G network, the signal goes to a wireless base station. You know those towers, right? They have base stations there. They connect to those base stations that have 5G equipment there and connects you, right, either to the HQ or wherever their head-end equipment is, and then that also now connects you to the customer you are calling. So that's a wireless spectrum technology.
This other one is for the house.
Yes.
These ones are physical cables, right, that go into structures, physical structures.
Like houses.
Okay,
Right.
we have time running out.
So
and then just a final question.
connectivity is huge, and
Yes.
it's a plus, you know. However, another key part of your portfolio is innovation.
Right.
And many times people have turned startups and innovation to a money-making scheme, come up with an idea, make a lot of noise, do valuation, make the money, and then the company folds up. And the money has gone. So what are the key innovations that in the past 4 years you are celebrating that we supported this innovation and it has delivered this value to the people?
So one of the things that came out of the first AOT 1.0, right, and is under our funding pillar, was the Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council, right? That council is made up of public and private sector individuals that were tasked with funding and resourcing innovative startups in Lagos. And so from 2020 to now, the space of about 24 months, we've supported over 60 startups, right? Innovative startups in fintech, construction tech, agri-tech, health tech, yes. So we've been able to support them. At least when we started supporting them, it was around $12,000 each. It were grants, right, to these startups. These grants enabled some of these startups that were innovating. They gave them their initial runway. Some of these startups have actually raised more money in the private markets. So for instance, there is a startup that was using technology and data to help farmers improve their crop yields. So it was a data platform that would tell farmers, okay, this is the correct season to plant. This is the type of seeds that you should use. This is information on the market for your harvests and things like that. So that was one of the first startups we
We
funded.
need to wrap up, but I need you just to finally tell us the dates, the time, because is this for every Gbogbo or just specific people within the ecosystem?
So it's mostly targeted at the ecosystem, but people that have an interest in technology can also come.
Daytime venue.
So the date is December 8th and 9th. That's Thursday and Friday. And it starts at 10 a.m.
Where?
At Landmark Event Center. So if you are not able to make it to the physical spot, we'll be streaming online, right? We have some attendees who have registered who are not able to make it, and they'll be watching it online. So we'll provide all of the information. You can go to www.aotlagos.com to register, and
It's cool. We've spoken to quite a number of Governor Sanwo-Olu's cabinet members, and you all seem really smart. Just hope that we don't like the talk, we like the action, and we've seen that in Lagos. Yeah, we've seen that in Lagos. So it's really good to see you guys working so hard. So congratulations.
The governor has a good team.
Those wires, we saw them.
It's just wires. It's just wires.
You know, that's all we can take on this. Thank you very much, Mr. Lagos. I'm going to break. When we come back, move on to the next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So Tuesday, our Healthy Tuesday segment, our guest will be teaching us ways to prevent sudden or untimely death, cardiac arrest, and improve the much-needed skills for basic life support. So in Nigeria, a lot of we just hear he's slumped. Everybody says they slumped. Well, are there ways to revive somebody who slumps? That's really the conversation. We have a resuscitation trainer here. He's a medical educator and resuscitation trainer, Dr. Femi Ogunremi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
We really need your education today because we are constantly hearing of people slumping to their death, and we're thinking, couldn't there have been ways to revive these people before getting to the hospital? Yes. So that's why we thought we should bring you on to teach us again on how to help to get back air into the heart to beat again. Let me let you start with your demonstrations. Why is that? Are there ways? Let's even start with that. Are there ways to resuscitate people when they slump?
Yeah, sure. There are ways to resuscitate people when they slump. And then when we talk about somebody's slump, we need to put that in a perspective. We have to actually be able to define that somebody is unconscious when you say that they slump, because there's a difference between you fainting and you collapsing. So these skills I'm going to demonstrate today is important for people when they collapse. There are a lot of things that happen in Nigeria. If you go on social media, you see all sorts of things. Somebody dancing just now, and 1 minute they're gone. And then we start pouring water, giving them milk to take and things, and until they, they just hear they pass out. So what I'm going to teach us is basically introducing you to some organs in your body: your brain, your heart, and your lungs. Those 3 organs are very important. Your heart, obviously, when a child is born, before birth, they're inside mama's womb, and they're swimming in water. They're happy there. And then wicked us, we pull them out, cut them off the mother, and then they have to survive on their own. And that survivor means that the heart, the lungs has to function. So if a baby comes out and they do not, breathe spontaneously, we start panicking and start running around. So the important thing is you need the lungs to get air into it, and then that air, which contains a lot of oxygen, needs to get into the blood vessels, which is taken to other part of the body. The food that we eat, all the energy source that we're taking, they won't work unless you have oxygen to break them down. So you need that oxygen. So that's where it becomes very important that you can't abbreviate or reduce that time of oxygen getting to the organs. So all the cells in the body will need all the nutrients to function. So the brain, for example, will last up to 5 minutes without oxygen, and after that it's going to die. And if you call a doctor that somebody's collapsed, they want to confirm whether the person is still alive. You want to check the heart. You want to check whether they're breathing. And the next thing you want to check is the brain still functional. So we shine light into the pupil to see whether the pupil is fixed and dilated. The pupil will be fixed and dilated when the brain is dead. So you need to prevent that. That being said, it means that within a short while of somebody collapsing and no oxygen getting to the body, you have to jumpstart it very quickly. And in fact, research shows that if we, all of us, if we know how to demonstrate what we're going to learn today, about 60% of the people that are dead, they'll probably be alive today.
So we have very little time. I want you to really get to work. So would you help us demonstrate?
Before you demonstrate, just quickly, short sentence, the difference between collapsing and fainting.
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Okay, so collapsing means that the person is not breathing and they are not conscious, and blood vessels are not, the blood function in terms of functionality instead of the heart pumping is no more there. That's collapsing. Somebody can momentarily have shortage of blood to the brain and they feel fainty. It is a warning sign. People will feel faint and then they will carry on.
I've fallen before. And for a short time, it was black.
Yeah, so people, if you stand for too long, you can have what they call postural. The blood level in your brain might drop a little bit, and then you can feel like giddy, and then come round again. But if that happens, anybody that faints needs to get somebody to see, just to be sure that it's not. Especially if it happens first time, second time, don't even delay. Just go and see somebody. All right.
So let's really finish fainting. So if you faint, what happens? How do you revive the person that faints?
So if somebody faints, some people will come back spontaneously.
By themselves.
Yeah, by themselves.
So you don't need to sprinkle water, because that's the next thing.
No, I don't. This sprinkling water. I started thinking about the science behind it. Except you're stimulating them. You understand? So, of importance is somebody faints. You want to just do a quick check. Are they still conscious in terms of responses? So you need to check their response. Then when we're doing response, when we're checking people's response on this, assessing their consciousness, we always check for pain and you check for hearing. Okay, so if I can demonstrate that very quickly because of the time. So if I can stand, we assume that this man has just collapsed and they've called me, to see him. I want to just shout into the ear. We have 2 ears, so don't forget, somebody can plug. These days we're carrying ear plug all over the place. So you shout in the ear, can you hear me? Can you hear me? So you shout as much as possible. Can you hear me? Even if you don't know their name. But if you know their name, you call their name, okay? See whether they're going to come round. If they do not come round, then you want to then check whether they can feel you, okay? Because there are different levels, of consciousness, right? If somebody can hear you, it means that they're not, they're not deeply unconscious. If they can't hear you, they're unconscious. If you're sleeping, you can't hear somebody. But if they shout in your ear, you come up, right? You wake up, right? So that's what we're talking about. Now, if you shout and they're not hearing, then you need to check for pain. You tap them. Tap them. So that, you have to tap as hard as that, yes. Just to make sure that it's pain you want to elicit. They can't hear you. Can they still feel pain, right? If they can't feel pain, doesn't mean that they're dead.
If they are fainted, would they feel pain?
Yeah, if somebody faints, depends on the level of fainting that we're talking about now, right? Some of them might not come round immediately. It might just delay. By the time you lay down, if it's faint, there is a momentary loss of blood to the brain. By the time they lay down, blood then gets to the brain. They come round.
Oh, gotcha.
Do you understand? They come round a lot because it's the blood fainting. Not supplied to the brain that's causing problems.
So lying them flat is a good response.
It's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking into their ears, tapping the body.
The body, right? So after you've done that, then you want to check whether they are breathing.
Okay.
So to check whether they're breathing, you tilt their head backwards and lift their chin. So as you are now, if you do like this and take a deep breath, or you do like this and take a deep breath, you realize that when you put your head up, it's easier to breathe.
Yes.
Than when you are like this. When you do like this, you're blocking your airways.
Okay.
So what you want to do is open that airways. To open it, you tilt the head and lift the chin.
Okay.
Right? And then you want to feel and whether they're breathing, whether air is coming out of their nose or their mouth. You put your head over it that way. And then look at their abdomen, whether they're breathing. Like, when you're breathing, it's more on your abdomen.
Right.
And you do that for about 10 seconds.
Okay.
You count it, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, up to 10. So I'm saying and 1. I'm breaking that because in emergency you can keep saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, it's not up to. So if you look at the end of the second, it's like 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. So you count 10 seconds. If you can't feel the breath, you can't hear them breathing, you can't see them breathing, then you can comfortably say this person is in a collapse state. The other thing we normally say is to check for pulse. But even a doctor, for me to feel your pulse is difficult. Talk less of the public. So if your pulse is there, but you're not breathing and you're unconscious, it's a matter of time. The pulse will go. So what you need to do at this time is to start CPR.
Okay. So what's CPR? So let's go on a break.
All right.
When we come back, we'll now start on proper CPR. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So let me just recap quickly so that I know that our viewers know what we're talking about. So somebody just falls down. It could be faint. If it is, once you fall down, the blood rushes back to the brain and they're likely to come up themselves. If they don't, it's possible they have collapsed, which means that there's a possibility that they can't breathe properly. So the first thing you do is lay them down, shout into their ears, get them to come conscious. If they don't get conscious, it causes pain. If they don't by smacking their shoulders, after the pain, what's the next one?
You check if they're breathing.
You check if they're breathing, right? And then you put their head
simultaneously.
Yes.
You put the head to the back, see it breathing, and then check if their tummy is going up and down.
10 seconds.
For 10 seconds.
You have mixed it.
Okay, please go
You
ahead.
check the breathing first.
Yeah.
If it's not going up and down,
down.
then you now start to make sure they can breathe. So that's when you push their chin up, see if they will take in air.
Okay.
If they don't take in air, that means they're in a collapse state, and that's when he's taking
And that's where we're now going to CPR. So let us move on to CPR.
Okay, so for CPR, the full meaning of CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So it means, cardio means the heart, pulmonary means the lung. They work together. There's a lot of information that I've jumped to just get here because when you talk about cardiopulmonary, there's a system which we have not talked about here. So the system is failed, like a car is failed. You need to jumpstart the car. So now I'm the mechanic. I'm going to jumpstart this person's heart. So I'm going to now do mechanical compression, which is, doing, I've seen a lot of things. When somebody is collapsed, people say, oh, go on the left-hand side, press on the right-hand side, and the middle. No, to know where to put your hand, look at this person. And this is a man. He has 2 breasts. Line that joins the 2 breasts crosses the middle at that point. The point where it crosses the middle plate, that's where you're putting your hand.
Wow.
The other thing is,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if it's a lady with a big boob, and then you want to look at where to put your hand, look, if you ram your hand through your chest, it gets to a place here where it dimples. You feel that click in your abdomen, it's denting. So that point, you put your finger over it like this, right? At the top of it, put that, it's still the same line. If you look at the line that joins the nipple about the same time. So that's where you put your hand, right? I'm sorry, I'm rushing this. Okay. So you put your hand, and then you lock your elbow, and then you put your hand down. You need to go very fast. Push. Yeah, it's a push, but you'll be on the floor. So you do this. You're doing about 100 to 120 of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you get to 30, you give them 2 rescue breathing. So you tilt the head again, leave the chin to open the airway, and then you seal your mouth around the mouth. If it's safe, because in these days of COVID and HIV, you have to do that in context. Yeah, I will explain something later. So you put your hand, mouth, 1, you see the abdomen rise and fall. 2, and then you continue. 31, 32, 33, 34, 60. So after 30 again, that's 60. Then you do 1, 2, 61. You're blowing. You take a normal breath and blow in. It's like you're giving them oxygen that they lack now. So you continue to then do this. Then 90, that's another 30. So by the time you do up to 100 to 120, you've done 1 minute. Yeah. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that, up to 1 minute. And then you're doing, so 3 cycle, you have 3 to rescue breathing. Do you understand? Yes. So that then completes. So you continue to do that.
They're likely to revive.
A lot of the time, if it depends on when you're catching them. The earlier you start, the better. If you leave it longer, chances of survival reduces as time goes. Okay. You understand?
So at least that would help oxygen to get back to the brain.
So one of the things that I noticed, one of the mistakes we have as a country is that when things happen, we don't know what's about doing this. Yeah. So people faint we see it maybe like in the airports. We see that airport scene. Somebody just collapsed. What would they do? They are fanning the person. You're saying don't do that. We should.
Yeah. You need to assess this person as quickly as possible. If you don't do something, this person will die. So whatever you're doing, you're going to help them.
Response.
Yes. So we need to. I know as a nation we don't have this. This is called AED. Okay.
As a nation.
Yes, as a nation we don't have it because we need to have more of this in our country. So if somebody collapses, you can quickly call for. Now, 2 things can cause the heart to stop. It could be an electrical problem, just like a car. When you have to call a rewire, you call a mechanic and a rewire. Mechanic comes, so you are the mechanic now. You do the mechanical thing. You do that. That's mechanical.
This is the rewire.
This is the rewire. AED, the rewire, I call it. So to use the AED, you have to. You got to be very. You need to be trained with this one. So you might not be able to do this unless you're trained. So you will put this on, and then
if the patient is a child,
it will give you information
press the
what
child
you need to
button.
do. So if it's a child, you press the child button.
Remove clothing from
you remove the
patient's
clothes from the
chest.
chest because you need a bare chest to be able to apply this.
And apply
This is the packet, so you will see it's
shown. Let me pause you there because things that many Nigerians don't have this. So this is what people be professional.
Okay. This is supposed to be for the public.
So you're saying that everybody should have something like this?
People, we should have this. No, not in their car. Maybe like in a mall.
Like
your
first
aid
shrine.
Your first aid box, you should have things like this. Here in CVC, you need to have.
Where do you put it?
That's where we're going next.
So if you look at this, if you zoom your camera, you can see that this
shows you the picture
where you put it.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So the picture is there. So you position it, like this one goes here, or that's on.
Adult patient.
You put this here.
If the patient is a child, press
and then put
the
this
child.
Here.
Press pads firmly on skin.
You just follow this.
Okay, right.
Apply pads
so we'll
as
apply
shown
it.
in the pictures. Apply pads as shown in the pictures.
There's a mistake, you will keep saying that.
Press pads firmly on skin.
Right? Okay.
Apply pads
So
as
this is not
shown in the
complete.
pictures.
So until you do it, it's
Apply
Right.
pads
It will
as
keep saying
shown in the
same
pictures.
until you put it right.
Okay,
Okay.
just for
Pads
time.
because of
firmly
time. It's a
on
live
skin.
TV show.
So what would happen?
So what would
if-
happen
So,
to just
so it would
jumpstart?
ask you to
Do not touch the
now
patient.
when you say do not touch the
Analyzing
patient, it's
heart
analyzing the
rhythm.
heart
Okay.
to check whether there's need to
Do
shock
not
this
touch
patient.
the patient. Analyzing
I have to
heart
stop this
rhythm.
because I
Okay.
said it's a live show.
Shock
We can't.
advised.
You can
So-
turn it off.
Shock
Do
advice.
not
So
touch
just
the
for up,
patient.
So
let's
yeah,
bring
so with that one, if we ask you to shock, you shock, but you need to be trained to use this because you don't want to shock somebody.
Right.
So
Now let's go to another because we're trying to save lives here.
Yes.
There are many times Nigerians we get into accident. Maybe there's an injury.
yeah,
So there's blood. Somebody got shot recently. They were to say, "Oh, he's still breathing. He was shot,
Yes.
but he's probably still breathing." What can we do to stop the bleeding and still do cardio and CPR?
okay. So bleeding is one thing because if you bleed so much, your heart can struggle and not be able to carry on, and the person will get in here. So if somebody is bleeding, you need to arrest the bleeding. So yes, look at the place depending on it. Bleeding can be inside, can be outside. So if you bleed inside, you don't see it.
Right.
Doctors will able, or people can assess that. But if it's outside and you see it bleeding, you have to tie the area. Any which way you need to stop that bleeding, or you put pressure on it, firm pressure. If it's safe, please beware of the fact that you can catch infection if you're not protecting
then
yourself.
start CPR.
Yeah, so you then start CPR. The CPR is when this person is collapsed now. Do you understand? So yeah.
Okay. I mean, any other questions?
Yes, so my question would be that, to train Nigerians,
Yeah.
are there places that Nigerians can go and learn this training for themselves?
I do a lot of
Especially for this kind of thing.
yeah, I do this training every month. I mean,
Anything
And also
that
watch
schools-
YouTube videos.
yeah, so the idea is if there are schools that are interested, I really am keen to, get children to get,
Can we
trained
get
on
this
this one.
thing to buy?
This mannequin. Of course, you can
Why
get
the
it.
mannequin?
The AED, yes, the AED is available. A lot of people had bought in Lagos,
So
actually.
I wanted to, we just were rounding, final rounding off. Is there a different way to treat a young child that
It's
collapses?
yeah.
And,
One thing
or-
that's even
tiny
and
baby.
yes, or and a different thing to do when it is a very old person.
So there are things to look out for. This is a very short time. There are things that we need to do. We do for children. There are things you need to do specifically. But let me mention one thing that is very important because I've seen a lot of call for this one. People choke. You don't know what to do.
Yes.
And people die from choking needlessly.
Yes.
You understand? There's a very simple thing that you need to learn to do. Choking can be simple.
please, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
So choking can be it can be something mild. Like you're drinking water, it goes in the wrong way, start coughing.
Yes.
People say drink water. It's very dangerous. So what you need to do is to pat their back and let them cough up whatever is blocking the airways. You understand? So you just pat their back, just gentle pat. Because what they can't do is they need to cough that thing up. So you need to encourage
So I
coughing.
need to understand, do you bend them over
You
or
bend them
leave
over.
them straight?
Bend them
Okay.
over and do that, so that they can. Now, if they choke completely, if I ask you to call my name and don't breathe, you can't do it. So I'm not going to ask you to do it because stop breathing, call my name, you can't do it. So when you're choked completely, you can't talk. So people who are choked completely, what they'll be doing is they'll be calling for help. They will shouting for help. They can't talk. So you need to help them unblock whatever is there. If you leave it for so long, they will die. So what you need to do is you need to pat them on the back, right? So you lean them forward and give them a good blow on the back 5 times.
Yeah.
5 times, so that they can cough up. If they do not, then you go again. That point I told you earlier on, this spot, you put your hand there and jack them forward 5
the
times
first
again.
thing is the back
blow,
then
and then you do
jack
abdominal
up
thrust 5 times. You keep rotating it until they expel that thing. So it's very important. There are a lot to do.
But it's
We do the
difficult
training.
for bone to come out because sometimes
No, bone is a different thing. Bone is different.
Bone is different.
It hooks.
Oh.
So it hooks.
That one is
so
surgery.
It's a different. No, not necessarily. There are medicines we give people that can
It's
help.
not Eba
but
that
if
you
it's
give.
not,
Oh, God bless you. That's
all
what
this
I'm
Eba thing, I don't know.
Yes.
I always say
You gotta go.
you use this soft drink. Those ones are fizzy one that has gas.
Yeah.
Sometimes they help.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, nice.
sometimes. So,
Interesting. Good
yeah.
information. That's all we
Anyway.
can take on this show. I
So
thought we learned a
much.
few things. Mariam, can you wrap it up for us? Tell us, what did you learn? No.
Oh, what I learned is
In
that
10 seconds. Okay.
10 seconds. CPR. You have to check. If someone falls, there's a difference between fainting and collapsing. Collapsing is when you have checked all the followed the necessary steps, and the person is not breathing again, and then you follow the steps
Compression.
and compress, and then
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. My talk where?
So
What did you
what I learned, talking to the person's ear, hit the person on the shoulder,
Yeah.
and if there's no response, then I'll look for that place in between the line under the breast, and then I now compress immediately,
That
60,
line
count
is
60, raise the head up, breathe into the person's mouth, compress 60 again, breathe into the person's mouth, and everything.
30.
32.
That line
Go and watch the video again.
That line is
Yes, that line is here.
That's Guru. That's go and watch the video to get it. We'll cut out the
Yes.
clips so that Nigerians can know this information. It's really
Please.
important. Thank you very much, Dr.
Very
It was a pleasure
important.
having you on the show today. That's all we can take. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.